Talk to your neighbor. Okay, a crack in God's armor. The devil, out of all that he does, wants to find a crack in God's armor. Doesn't matter how small. See, because God, being perfect, the devil, wants to prove him not perfect. So therefore, if he can find one little flaw in everything that God does, in anything out of everything that God does, then he can say, see there, I told you, you're not perfect. So, and this is what the devil is trying to do, and all that he does from the beginning. See, he's made the statement he's going to set himself above God's throne, because the humble nature of the Lord, he looks like he'd have flaws, because God sits back and lets you trample all over him if that's what you desire to do. And in a person like that, normally speaking of the natural, a person like that has many flaws. But we forgetting that God is not a man. He is not a man. He's perfect in everything that he does. He's perfect in love. And one thing I noticed about simple people is that, man, they know how to love. They're very, very affectionate. And because God is so much like that, they think, the atheists especially think that God is imperfect. And so a lot of atheists spend a lot of time trying to find cracks in God's armor. And I was talking to an atheist online. I talked to several online. One of the things they try to do is they try to lead you away from talking about the Bible. Well, the Bible is who we are. It's who God is. It makes a statement of who God is. And how can you disprove the Bible without talking about the Bible? They just want to talk about atheism. They don't want to talk about faith, God, the foundation of who we are. How can you disprove something without talking about it? So, but their ideal is just like the devil. He wants to find that crack in God's armor. In Ephesians chapter 6, you go down, it starts about verse 10. It says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and the power of his might. Put on the whole armor. See, the Bible calls it an armor. The defense of who you are. The makeup, the foundation of our battle gear. That all that we do is an armor. It's a sword. It's a breastplate. And well, let's read it here. It says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Now, in all that, the devil's trying to find a flaw in that, in who God is. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God. See in verse 13 there. So, out of everything, out of working in the individual lives of people, billions of people all at the same time, everywhere, the devil's trying to find a flaw in God, in doing as much in everything that he does, and in all the lives that he works in. Well, I want to make a challenge to the atheists. If you really want to disprove God, then show him the mistakes that you think that he has, just like the devil's trying to do. And in order to do that, you got to find out who he is. Number one, you have to admit there is a being that you're spending your life fighting against, but still you argue that he doesn't exist. He exists in you, even in theory. He exists in you and in your heart as the moral value of who you are. In every person, God put his stamp in every person. Moral value of God is in every man. Okay, and the basics of the moral values of who God is in every man. So, and in all of that, see, the devil's trying to find fault with it. why did you kill people, and why did God say kill people? And he says, shall not murder. Well, the shall not murder is to man, it's not to God. God is not a man. Those 10 commandments are to men. God is not held by those 10 commandments of men. Even though they make the basis of who God is, God's not held by our side of it, because we are flawed in who we are. That's the difference. We're flawed in who we are, and God is not. God is perfect. When God says take a life, it's because He owns a life, and we don't own that life. We don't even own our own life. The Bible says, Psalms 24:1, that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So, the devil, try as he may, he will never find a crack in God's armor. Perfect armor will not crack. We can't understand perfect armor. Our minds go 1/10 of 1%, and God's goes 10 billion strong and still climbing. You know what I mean? And we will never get to the point of knowledge if we grow every day in knowledge. If our knowledge grew every day and it doubled every day, and in 10,000 years we would still not be a tenth as smart as what God is, and that's a huge statement. And so see, it's hard for men to comprehend that you will not find a crack in God's armor. It's not crackable. There is no flaw in perfection. That's a statement in itself. There is no flaw in perfection. And if you can understand that, then you can understand there's no crack. God is perfect. He is loving, and He wants to bring us into the place where He is, and He wants to bring us into the way of perfection just like He is. And we have to be willing to let go of the natural in order to do that. So I thank you for joining me again today on Crossing the Middle Ministry. Join me again tomorrow or the next day, whenever I can get on here, and we'll have another great subject. God just keeps leading me in all these things that He wants you to know about Him. And I'm just so glad to be able to do this for you. And we'll see you again next time. All right? God bless.